Hello there, underwear fans. This is Underwear Guy, and I'm kicking off a new set of reviews covering affordable men's underwear. You might have remembered a video I posted a while ago where I'd done a shopping haul and I had purchased a ton of underwear from a lot of well-known department store brands like Sears, JCPenney, Kohl's, and Kmart. And the whole point of that shopping exercise was to find underwear that I could review that fell into the more reasonable everyday wear category that guys could buy, and they could find it very reasonable in terms of how much they were spending to buy like 5 pairs of underwear all at once. So to start, I'm going to begin with the Covington Bikini Briefs, and these are a brand that you can only get at Sears. You can go to stores and online at sears.com to buy these. Starting off with the packaging, when you go to Sears, you're going to see in these clear plastic boxes the Covington underwear, and this is the same box for all the different styles. They just use a different printed insert. You'll notice that the size is very clear on front, and I'll mention more about why this is a small even though I normally wear a medium. You can see the Covington logo is nice and bold. You have a good photo of a model wearing the underwear, so it's very clear what the style is like. And on the back you have the pricing information, the size guide, and then some of the other information about the material. You'll notice here this was $18 for this 5-pack, and you can often get these on sale for cheaper. So even right now on Sears.com you can buy this same 5-pack only in white for $10.80. And when I bought these a while ago, this was about 2 months ago I think, I was able to get this as a buy one get one half off deal. So this definitely falls into the affordable, even the thrifty underwear category when you can get it on sale. The underwear is folded and then rolled and stacked in the box, so you can see exactly what you're getting in terms of the colors and patterns before you open up the box. The country of manufacture is Bangladesh. I don't have anything specific to comment on that. I've never encountered any issues. It's pretty rare though these days that I see underwear made from Bangladesh, so that was just kind of an interesting side note. Starting off the review, I wanted to begin with the material. This is a 100% cotton fabric. It has a fairly nice feel to it. It's certainly not premium in the sense that it's not that soft, but I do like it. It's very wearable, and it works well, particularly on the solid colors here. You feel a little bit more of a roughness because of the print on these pattern versions. That will probably wash and wear away and get a little bit smoother over time, but overall this 100% cotton is a pretty decent material for underwear. In terms of stretch, even though it's 100% cotton, that actually doesn't mean that it's not going to be able to stretch. What often happens is the way that fabric is manufactured and woven, it will stretch in one direction. And if the underwear designer is smart, they'll stretch it on the horizontal, and that's what they did here. So when I go to stretch this, you can see there's an elastic waistband, and I can actually stretch this quite a bit on the horizontal direction. A little less so on the pouch. It's 2 layers of fabric and it doesn't stretch as far. So that's actually really good. The lack of stretch does come in the vertical. So when I try to stretch it this way, it's got no give. And that's not necessarily unusual. That's why I'm giving it kind of an average stretch score of 4.0. So on the horizontal, if I just went by that, it'd probably be a 5 or 6 on stretch, but because there's no vertical, I'm going with 4. In terms of material weight, so this material is fairly thin, and that's partly why in the final score you're going to see it's a little bit lower than the premium type of underwear fabric. I noticed on the pattern here you can actually see through pretty well even with the print, and you can certainly see through on the white. Like on the back here where you've got that information on the manufacturing label, it does show through. That's pretty lightweight. That could be good for warmer weather, but in general it feels just a tad too thin for my liking. I would say it's a little bit on the lighter side than average. So I'm going to go with a 4.0 on that particular rating. I'm not going to call out any particular material features. I didn't see any of this fabric falling into sweat wicking or anti-pill or keep warm, so we're going to kind of skip through this particular part of the review and go to the final grade. So I'm going with a B-, and that's actually a really good score. Remember, we're talking about underwear that you're getting, especially on sale, for barely $2 per pair. So it's not necessarily bad that we're going with a B-. I don't expect miracles with that kind of price point in terms of the fabric. I do think there's room for improvement, though. I honestly think some spandex would have been really smart, would have been really nice in the blend. And, you know, a little bit more premium, it would have been nice. Nevertheless, you get what you pay for, and I think for this price range, B-, it's actually a really good score. Next category for the review, fit. So first up are the actual rise and coverage that you get out of this particular mini brief / bikini brief. So most of the time you'd expect out of this type of style of underwear to be pretty low rise, and it is. That's good. The vertical span here isn't exaggerated, and the coverage in back is good. I will note that I ordered a size down, so I'll go into that in a little bit. But overall, the fit on the legs was good. There was enough stretch to accommodate, I think, a good range. And again, the waistband is fully covered elastic, so that helps keep everything secure, and this isn't going to fall down. So I thought those were all good features on the overall coverage and rise. Pouch size. So a good underwear is going to have some sort of pouch design. Flat front isn't necessarily my favorite idea, and they did do a nice center seam pouch design. You can see the dual layer seams here to create that dual layer fabric in front. My issue is that it's a little too narrow, especially in the lower half of this design. So for guys that want a little bit more room or want or need it, this may feel kind of snug. It's not tight. I think that's perhaps being a little too harsh, but it's not going to be incredibly accommodating. In terms of shaping and lifting, I would give this a decent rating. It's nothing super special. I don't think you should really expect it out of this category of underwear, but it's better than others in some cases that are even more expensive. You can see the center seam here, and there's some coverage and some curve, but you know, it could use more work if I were going to give it a really high score. Overall size. So this is really important. As I mentioned, I didn't buy a medium, and here you can see they say on the packaging that a medium is a 32 to 34 inch waist, and that's typical North American sizing. However, my previous purchases of Covington underwear taught me that they tend to run a bit large. So I took a risk, and based on that prior experience, bought these in a small, which I normally wouldn't because I'm usually medium. And I found that these actually fit great ordering one size down. Even a small, I felt like you could even go up to a 34 inch waist that when I was wearing, because I'm a kind of 32 and a half inch waist. So there was still room. There was plenty of give, and I felt like that was definitely running pretty large otherwise if I had bought a full medium. Now, I actually don't believe that sizing down necessarily alters the pouch size very much, so I'm going to stick to the pouch size being a bit snug, even though I've ordered a size down. I think that's a fair appraisal. So absolutely, if you're normally going to be wearing a medium, buy a small. If you normally wear small, unfortunately you're kind of out of luck because there is no extra small in this size. Thinking about my overall grade, I kind of waffled because the pouch really could use some rework. Would that be a B-? But given the price point and the fact that it's very wearable and it's actually pretty flattering for this kind of underwear, I'm giving it a solid B, which is a really good score. Next category for the review is design and style. So let's start with the colors. When you order online, you can actually select a 5-pack that is all white. So that's just really brilliant white, very clean. It's very good here. And then you have these solid colors, and I bought the one that was a mix between the solids and patterns. The hue is really nice and rich. It's a desaturated kind of turquoise blue here and a dusty purple. I really like these two colors because I think they actually come across as masculine without being totally dull. Also included in the 5-pack that I picked out was a pattern with a purple kind of abstract print and then a geometric print. And it should note that this geometric print, turquoise, is actually on a light gray. It's not white. So there's a different color in there too. The print itself is pretty high quality, but it definitely separates when you pull it apart, which isn't unusual. But when you're looking at really high quality underwear, you won't see as much of the underlying fabric color show through. It's just one of the things you get if you pay more for higher quality. Overall, I do like the color selection, and I think that's a lot of fun and great opportunity to pick out what you like for that day and for when you're shopping. Tag material. So actually there isn't really a tag. It's all printed. I think I kind of hinted at that before. So on the dark fabric you get white printed text with the logo, the size, and the manufacturing info. That does kind of affect the fabric and back. It might be a little hard to see, but it's a little stiffer because this is like a decal, a heat press decal, and it does prevent the fabric from flexing and stretching as much in the area where that decal is applied. On the lighter color fabric, they used the reverse with a black or kind of dark gray printing here. It is good. It provides all the information. I think having to put both English and Spanish did take up more space than normal, so that's the one drawback. With more wash and wear cycles, this will become more flexible and it won't have much of a feel to it. Brand new out of the box, you definitely can feel a little bit of this texture. Pretty minor. Considering the price point, I think this was a good choice because a fabric tag would probably have been done fairly cheaply to keep the manufacturing costs as low as possible on something like this, and it probably wouldn't have been very good. It would have been obtrusive in the fit and finish. So I think the printed tag option was a really good idea. The layers in front on the pouch, it's dual layer, and that's good because as I noted, this was a fairly thin fabric, and you can see it's the same on the inside, the same material, and if I can get it right, see there, I can separate the fabric into the two layers on the front and the back. Just so you know, on the print, they don't have print running on the inside. Here it's just the reverse facing. In this case, this is the purple with the white fabric, and the turquoise, it's the gray. Fly style, I think you might have seen this, and it's not unusual for this type of underwear, but there is no fly. That's expected, so nothing plus or minus about that, just to give you an FYI. Style, personality. So I try to cover what I think the person, the guy that's going to wear this in terms of how bold they need to be. If this was a total mesh fabric, you would be considered very daring, kind of extreme on the edge, which is not a bad thing. And if this was maybe a full cut, like long john, you would be very conservative. This falls in the confident category, kind of the low confident, like a 5. It doesn't go up to a 6, I don't think. And the reason mostly is because it doesn't have a lot of coverage. This is a fairly revealing brief in the sense that you have just the pouch and a very high rise on the legs and then low rise on the waist. It comes to a pretty minimal, like 1.5 inches on the side here. You do have full coverage in back at least, and it's 2 layers of fabric in front, so you're not going to be revealing too much, which is a good thing, I think. Recommended uses. So my evaluation of this particular set of briefs is that it's probably good for all day and office. I know you could apply it to other categories that I've called out here, but I think if I'm saying what these are best for, it's going to be those two. Overall value. Now, normally, if you could be expecting this to be $18 all the time, I would probably actually put it more in the affordable, like a 3 or a 4. But because I've seen this pair and set of underwear go on sale so often, I'm going to actually stick to thrifty, probably at a 2, because it just becomes so cheap. It's great. I think that's where you really get a win on these underwear items. So when I look at everything all together for design and style, I'm going to give these a solid B score. I think there's a lot to be said about the color options. That's what really helps the overall style with the confident high rise on the legs and the low rise on the hip. I really like too. So this is a really good score. Next area for review, construction. This is an interesting category because I do have some comments. First off, stitching and cuts, and by cuts I mean the edge of the fabric. So there is something kind of funky going on in some of these. More than a few of them, and you might have to be watching this video in high definition to be able to see it, but there's this kind of weird, the fabric has been stressed, I think, by being put through these industrial machines for sewing, and there's just this errant kind of tufts of fabric, and this is not just on one, but it's on multiples, although it seems to be more noticeable on the turquoise color. But there's just this kind of extra errant threads. They should be cleaned, and when I open this up, there's just lots of little loose threads here and there. It's not my biggest call out. I've seen far worse, but it definitely is something that I would say doesn't necessarily help the score. Here on the inside you can see there's a loose thread there that wasn't cleaned up, and there's threads here that are still pulling off. So that's a little bit of a bother. I mean, it's not a bad thing for the most part, but it doesn't give you the best feeling when you open up your new underwear and you've got all this kind of manufacturing artifacts left over. When I think about the overall durability, I'm giving this an average score, probably a 5. I feel like the fabric is going to hold up pretty well. The stitching is fairly clean. The edges of the fabric are pretty decent. Not always, completely even where you join the fabrics, meaning like the pouch. Sometimes these seams are a little bit off-center, but overall in terms of quality, I think these are going to last pretty well. I mean, I can stretch them out. I don't feel like there's any seams that are trying to rip open. Nothing's popping. It feels and sounds like a pretty solid construction quality. So I'm going to give the durability again about a 5. Looking at the wash and care options. So it's really common when you see the wash and care information that they say machine wash, and then here it says tumble dry low. Well, I don't know about you, but when you're dealing with affordable underwear, the idea you're going to tumble dry low is sort of a silly idea. And the reality is you're going to machine dry it on your normal setting, which is going to be pretty warm. I've run the Covington underwear, not these particular pairs, but other pairs before, regular wash. They didn't disintegrate. Maybe they didn't last quite as long as they would have if I had been a little bit more careful, but that's the whole point of affordable underwear, that you're not going to have to baby it. So I'm going to go with regular detergent being fine. Obviously not bleach, except for maybe if you buy the white, that you could probably bleach. Just be careful, because bleach does break down fabric pretty fast. And then machine wash, machine dry. Pretty easy care. And that's actually really nice. If I'm going with my overall construction and care grade, I'm sticking to a B-. And that's really because of all that sort of leftover stuff with the loose threads. There's some edges of the fabric that I feel like could be cleaned up a tiny bit more than they were. Stitching is clean, but it's got some little roughness to it. So B-, which is good considering this is, again, on sale, maybe $2 per pair. Overall, decent grade. My final thoughts. I'm giving the 5-pack of Covington Bikini Briefs a B. And that's actually a good score. If I paid more, I would have probably lowered that down to a B-, but definitely on sale, it's hard to beat. I mean, this is a really nice set of underwear that you can wear for all day and get your use out of it. And if you have to replace it after a while, you don't feel like you're hitting your wallet. So I do actually recommend you try these out, as long as you size down. Just got to remember that. Until next time, this is Underwear Guy. Please stay tuned for more video reviews about affordable men's underwear, and check out my site, mensunderwearguy.com, where I'll post additional information whenever it comes up. In the meantime, happy underwear shopping.